What happens in ordinary moments determines your future. It's a pretty massive claim, right? I mean, we're constantly taught to obsess over those huge, monumental life choices. Who we're going to marry, what career path we take, where we invest our money. We totally buy into this myth that if we just nail those big decisions, everything else will magically fall right into place. But what if I told you it's actually the total opposite? What if it's your unconscious reactions in completely ordinary, everyday moments that are the true determinants of your success or failure?
Welcome to this explainer. If you're someone who is focused on optimizing your learning and really taking command of your life, well, you're exactly where you need to be. Today, we're going to unpack a super clear, highly structured guide to conquering those sneaky biological instincts that are secretly sabotaging our choices. We're going to learn exactly how to reclaim our minds.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start by exposing the power of ordinary moments, uncover your 4 internal enemies, introduce the accountability antidote, build a framework for mental strength, and finally, unlock the ultimate advantage.
We're pulling all our insights today directly from an incredibly fascinating playbook, Shane Parrish's book, Clear Thinking. This source material brilliantly breaks down exactly how we can take those overlooked, seemingly totally insignificant fractions of our day and transform them into extraordinary long-term results.
Section 1. The Power of Ordinary Moments, the Hidden Battleground. Think of yourself as the hero of your own story, but you're walking through this invisible battleground. Every single day, you are constantly making choices, even when you don't actually feel like you're deciding anything at all. Let's say a coworker drops a passive-aggressive comment, or someone just completely cuts you off in traffic. You face a major paradigm shift right there. On one side, we've got reacting. Now, this is driven entirely by our primal biology. It's unconscious, it's automatic, and man, it is fast. On the flip side, we have reasoning. This is driven by clear thinking. It requires absolute intentionality and a really deliberate pause. The scary truth? In most ordinary moments, the situation literally thinks for us. Our biology just completely hijacks our brains.
Moving into Section 2. Enemies of Clear Thinking, the 4 defaults.
So, to stop our biology from hijacking us, we have to know exactly what we're up against. There are 4 main biological defaults. Think of these as your internal enemies. They evolved way back when to protect our prehistoric survival. But today they just cause massive, unforced errors in our lives. They basically force us to run automatic programs instead of actually thinking clearly. We've got the emotion default, the ego default, the social default, and the inertia default. Let's break these down.
First up is the emotion default. This is our incredibly strong tendency to respond to feelings rather than facts. Take the absolutely heartbreaking story of Olympian Matthew Emmons. This guy was poised to win his 2nd Olympic gold medal in competitive rifle shooting. He's in the final round, he takes aim, and he fires. Bullseye. The only problem? He shot at the completely wrong target. He scored 0 points and lost the gold. And why? Well, as he admitted later, he was so consumed by this overwhelming emotional desire to just calm his nerves down that he totally skipped his normal routine of verifying the target number. Emotion literally bypassed his reasoning.
Then we have the ego default. There's a quote here that just completely nails it. Our desire to feel right overpowers our desire to be right. The ego just screams at us to protect our self-image at all costs. For example, the source material shares this crazy story about a CEO who was literally red in the face with rage because an employee bypassed his assistant to report a major urgent problem. Because the CEO's fragile ego was bruised by an unscheduled phone call, he yelled at the employee instead of actually listening to the massive warning, so the employee went straight to the board instead, and that CEO, he was fired. Or, think of Benedict Arnold betraying his entire country simply because he harbored deep resentment over his perceived social standing. Wounded pride is incredibly dangerous.
Next on the list is the social default. This is that deep-seated biological urge we all have to just fit in with the group. It makes us act like a bunch of lemmings who are absolutely terrified of standing out or looking silly. But look at reality. If you just do what everyone else is doing, you're going to get the exact same average results everyone else gets. If you're just standing in line digging ditches like everybody else, you are never going to take the risk required to step out of that line and actually invent the shovel. Finally, we have the inertia default. Think of this as cognitive friction. It's our brain's tendency to resist change and just stick to whatever feels familiar. In the book, the author shares a personal story about investing in a restaurant chain. Even as the CEO of this chain turned into a total dictator and the partnership completely soured, the author hesitated to sell his stake. Why? Cognitive inertia. Keeping things exactly the way they are takes zero effort. Starting or stopping something requires massive, uncomfortable effort. So what happens? We stay stuck in bad jobs, bad investments, and bad relationships just because it's the status quo.
Which brings us to Section 3, the accountability antidote, creating space.
Okay, so we've identified our 4 enemies. Now how do we actually fight back? We shift toward the solution by introducing this really vital concept, the pause. We have to intentionally build an accountability antidote into our daily routines. See, in that incredibly brief gap between a stimulus, like a trigger, and your actual response, you possess this immense, almost hidden power. In that split second, you have the choice to consciously apply reason. You can quite literally press pause on your biology.
Let's see how this works in Section 4, Building Mental Strength, the Framework.
To build a truly comprehensive defense strategy, we're going to need some specific mental weapons. For every single one of our 4 biological enemies, there's a direct, specific mental strength you need to neutralize it. We counter emotion with self-control. We counter ego with self-confidence. The social default gets neutralized by self-knowledge. And inertia, we fight that with self-accountability. Let's dig into what these actually look like in the real world.
Let's start with self-accountability. This means coming to grips with the fact that while your circumstances might not be your fault, your response to them is 100% your responsibility. There's this fantastic anecdote in the source material about a software engineer who missed a really critical pre-operation deadline because his bus got stuck in the snow. Naturally, he defensively lists off all his excuses, but his colleague's incredibly blunt reply, "I don't care. Don't blame the bus for being late. Buy a car." Ouch, right? But it's so true. The most successful people out there really don't care about excuses. They focus entirely on their next move.
Next up is self-knowledge. This is all about knowing exactly what you can and cannot do. A super wealthy real estate investor was once at a dinner being pitched this spectacularly lucrative business deal. I mean, it sounded amazing. But after hearing the whole pitch, he just passed. And why? He simply said, "I don't know anything about that space." He knew his boundaries. He fully understood the incredible superpower of just saying, "I don't know." And that alone kept him from getting swept away by all the intense social pressure in that room. Then we have self-control. This is your ability to create some vital distance from your immediate, visceral feelings. Look, inspiration and emotional excitement, sure, they might get you started on a new project, but disciplined consistency is the only thing that actually gets you to the finish line. Self-control ensures that reason wins out over short-lived emotional motivation. You basically refuse to let the unpredictable waves of your feelings determine the direction of your entire ship.
And finally, self-confidence. Now, true self-confidence is the absolute polar opposite of a fragile ego. Unearned ego obsessively needs to feel right? It constantly looks for people to validate it and agree with it. Genuine self-confidence, on the other hand, gives you the immense courage to actually admit your weaknesses. It allows you to change your mind when someone presents you with new facts and to face harsh realities without totally falling apart.
And now, Section 5, the ultimate advantage, positive inertia.
We've reached the climax of our explainer. Because what happens when you actually master these 4 strengths? You unlock the ultimate advantage. Once you are consistently applying self-accountability, self-knowledge, self-control, and self-confidence, something pretty magical happens. You completely reprogram those old defaults. You literally turn the headwinds of your biology into tailwinds. So instead of inertia keeping you stuck in bad habits, you create positive inertia. This means your automatic, default behaviors are now naturally driving you towards success. You don't even need sheer willpower anymore, because your standard operating procedure is already fully optimized. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with one final provocative challenge to chew on. Are you actively commanding your life, consciously using that vital pause between stimulus and response? Or are you simply living as a victim of your biology, letting your unconscious defaults dictate your entire future? The choice in every single ordinary moment is entirely yours.